Thoughts on the February 2021 PlayStation State of Play. It blew. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and support me on Patreon. I will do that later. This video obviously isn't done yet. So about 30 to 40 minutes ago, I watched Sony's State of Play, and the only thing that even slightly caught my attention were all the new details concerning Oddworld Soulstorm. Everything else was either boring or not interesting, to me personally, but even if I was a mega fan of all the games they showed, these are still games that they showed, like, last year. They spent so much time even on just Crash Bandicoot 4, which has been out for months. I can't remember if there was a single new announcement, aside from some new stuff coming to the PlayStation 5 version of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and even that it's just more of a game that we already know what happens in it, unless they change stuff around because Nomura is stupid. I just don't know. I can't muster the energy to care about this State of Play, or anything going on with the PlayStation, and I really haven't since the PS3 era. There have been some notable releases for the PlayStation consoles, like in those past generations, like Gravity Rush, for example. But on the whole, it feels like Sony is treating the PlayStation brand as just sort of a platform where other developers go, and then they bribe those third-party developers to either have their games on their platform exclusively for a bit before they go multi-platform, or if they're going to be multi-platform, then they try to bribe them to have some exclusive, like, you know, first access or DLC or something along with it. With PlayStation and Xbox for years now, it felt like the console wars has just been how many people are playing third-party online shooters on our system instead of yours. And it's harder to root for Sony on that side of things because they could be doing crossplay, and they, you know, choose not to. Like, I'm not really a fan of Xbox either, but at the very least, you know, despite their Microsoftiness, I can at least recognize that they are trying to reach out and innovate, you know, for their audience's sake. Yes, it helps their bottom line, but that's what a company is supposed to do anyway. They're trying to fund more stuff, like, you know, they bought a bunch of studios, which may not be the worst thing if they let them do their own thing, which so far it seems like that's their MO, like they learned their lesson from what they did with Rare. And then of course they've got stuff like Game Pass, which I've actually got a video about coming relatively soon. I'm in the process of editing it. And then of course when you compare Sony and Xbox to Nintendo, people normally flock to Nintendo, and why? Well, because they've got so many legacy IPs and great studios internally, like it's their studios, who not only publish but develop really cool, fun games. Granted, sometimes they falter, and in the Switch era in particular, it feels like they've had an over-reliance on ports. But either way, now Sony could do what Nintendo does and develop their own games and release them regularly, and to some smaller extent they have, but the thing is, they don't let them innovate that much, and when they do, it normally underperforms. And as a result, on this very same day, Video Games Chronicles reported that Sony's Japan studio will be dialing back on its development. For those of you who don't know, Japan Studio is Sony's oldest video game developer. They have aided in the development of multiple legacy projects, like Wild Arms, Parappa the Rappa, Hot Shots Golf, and they are also the sole developers of some crazy good games in their back catalog that they ignore for some reason, like Legend of Dragoon, Ape Escape, Gravity Rush, the new Astrobot series, and Knack. Here comes the money!
Somebody say Knack!
Here comes the money! It really sucked to see that news on my Twitter feed before watching the State of Play, because at the very least I could convince myself that maybe they'd announce some new project that would look interesting. But no, of course it's all just stuff that's been announced before. It's nice to have release dates for some of those projects, and some of them might just go on to be huge critical darlings and sales juggernauts, but I just don't give a flip. This console generation with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in particular feels the most unnecessary. Like when they were going on and on about how new and different you feel when you play Crash Bandicoot 4 or the Final Fantasy VII on PS5. It just read as so disingenuous. And when they were doing the graphics comparison of Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 4 versus PlayStation 5, there were moments where I was looking at the PlayStation 5 version and saying, that doesn't look better. In fact, that might look worse. Sometimes I was saying, okay, I see how that looks a little better, but either way, it's the change is so minute. It's great to have fun new tools for developers to work with. And so far, the only PlayStation 5 game that's out that's made me say, there might be some neat potential in this console is Astro's Playroom, but now you've announced that the studio you had making that game, or that tech demo rather, would be scaling back on development because they don't make bango bucks like EA and Activision do for you. It stinks with a capital stink. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I have harbored nothing but animosity towards Sony since the PS3 era, but things start to add up, man. Their subpar film division, the stupid patent they put on Blu-ray discs, how bonkers they are with censorship, their refusal to do crossplay, their lack of first-party releases, and now finally the straw that breaks the camel's back, the one little spark of originality they did have, they announced, or rather it was reported, that they would be actively doing less of it. I'm sorry, but this animosity, this indifference, it's kind of become hate. Like, I kind of really don't like Sony. With Microsoft, I'd say that I'm indifferent, but I'm leaning toward a more positive outlook, because Game Pass is pretty nifty, and some of the stuff in the pipeline looks a little bit interesting, so, we'll see. And with Nintendo, it's a hurricane. Their business practices have been awful. The amount of ports as opposed to new games on the Switch is downright depressing, especially if you're a Wii U owner. But then again, the games that they have been making have been really stellar. Like, really stellar. And the way that they treat their fans and how abysmal their online service are, that stuff, I don't give them a pass for that. Of course, I expect a lot better from Nintendo because their mission statement and the way that they develop games, they really do honestly seem to be intending to primarily focus on fun. But the business aspect of it now, their new president and the way they've been conducting business for a couple of years now with the Switch, it's just been worse and worse, and pride always comes before a fall, especially with Nintendo. A lot of people have said that Nintendo is kind of like the Disney of video games, and I would say that's true, mostly just for how many, legacy IPs they have and how little they have to innovate in order to get sales. But the thing is, they still do innovate in many areas. Some people have also said that Nintendo is like the Apple of video games. Nah, man, that's Sony. Sony charge an arm and a leg for something that doesn't give you that much more that their last thing could have given you. And their main competitors are just kind of objectively better in terms of allowing the customer to do more with what they have. I've been recording for 15 minutes now, and I've really just been rambling without focus for a while, so I guess I should stop. In summary, it's a bummer what's happened with Japan Studio. The state of play was boring, and I don't have high hopes for the Pokemon Direct tomorrow either. But I guess we'll wait and see. What do you all think about this mess? What are your feelings towards Sony just in general? Do you think I'm a little too harsh or not harsh enough? Let's discuss it in the comments, seriously. And of course, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Stay tuned for more stuff like this and some other stuff that's not really like this, but still good. And if you'd really like to go the extra mile, consider supporting me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month or as much as $10 a month. You'll get behind the scenes updates and credits in my videos and etc, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you the next time I see you.